Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day. So far, barely 48 hours from the end of Major 4 in Columbus, we have our first roster change of this period. Boston Reach have decided that Crimp is going to stay in the team after their recent stint, but a top 12 performance at the Major means they will make a move. Nero is gone, Vivid is back into the starting team. Is this a change that will actually improve them? Are they just throwing things at the wall to hope that they stick? Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, quick update on that whole drama we talked about at the start of yesterday. Thieves coach sitting behind OpTic while they were playing. There was a lot of discussion on this, and Thieves actually were going in on it pretty hard, which, you know, maybe it's good or bad for their narrative. And as Jacob says, Shane hearing OpTic's Mikado S&D strat calls was vital to our success. We haven't played this map since Major 2, which, okay, look, that is fair enough, but at the same time, there might have been a world in which he got, you know, just some indication on if A then B type thing in terms of the way they do their comms. It also sparked some kind of spin-off memes here from Taco. I don't know why so many people are mad at Shane. This didn't stop us from 1v4 against someone like his camera guy. FaZe on playing Ultra. So pretty funny stuff. I think it turned out right, according to Maven, that the screens to view the matches were above the players looking backwards. So if you actually wanted to watch the game, even on the screens in the venue, you kind of had to sit there and look kind of, well, the players are in front of you. You can kind of see their monitors, but you could also see the actual broadcast feed, the live broadcast feed, because there's a live feed that goes in the venue, and then on broadcast itself, on the stream, it's a few seconds delayed, right? You heard that when Thieves won the tournament, if you were watching a watch party, you would have probably heard the noise in the background a few seconds before they actually won the game and it appeared on stream, right? So, you know, a bit of a controversial one. Obviously, you guys gave your thoughts on it yesterday. Fundamentally a CDL issue, I think, but definitely a spicy one. Speaking of the CDL, though, these were the numbers for Major 4 in Columbus. Pretty good, I think, all things considered. Now, of course, everyone looks at the peak viewership figures. I know that in terms of average viewership, I believe this Major was actually slightly higher than back at Major 2 in Boston, which is impressive. No fans definitely does detract a bit from the quality of watching the broadcast. And at the end of the day, I mean, look, Major 1 peaked at 160, then at Major 2, 103. Major 3 was the all-time record, of course, at 335. This is including watch parties and stuff. And this Major 277. So look, OpTic in the finals again, obviously going to help. I thought these numbers very good, though, all things considered. Okay, yes, it's a bit of a decline, but it usually happens this time of the season. Major 4, Major 5. I mean, Major 4 probably historically is the lowest viewed Major anyway, because it's kind of like end of season almost. Things are kind of getting set in stone, and then Major 5 chapter kind of kicks up yet again. Obviously, the OpTic series are mostly up here. FaZe versus Subliners also got to 224, so I think pretty good. If there'd have been a crowd, I think it does elevate the enjoyment of watching it as well to a certain extent. And in terms of average viewership, I think the numbers are actually slightly more kind of promising than this when compared to the other events so far this season. But still, 277,000. You got to think about it, right? Like, this is, well, one of the only esports right now that's actually growing, if any are at all. Obviously, the Twitch thing helps, but you look at even some of the viewership for the CSGO and for League of Legends and stuff, like, COD is definitely getting up there. It's actually impressive what we're able to achieve at the moment. And these are the standings then going into the Major 5 qualifiers that begin in a couple of weeks' time. There's a couple of weeks off now for teams to make what I believe is probably going to be the last set of roster changes of the season. I think it's been the case last year and the year before. Once Major 5 begins the qualifiers, that's it for your roster. You can't make a change. Potentially they could make a change during Stage 5 qualifiers, I'm not really sure, but I think really that it's going to be a roster lock situation where whatever you've got, your 4-man starting team plus your bench player, that's what you've got. So you can make a change between them potentially if you wanted to make a substitute from your bench, but you know, you can't sign any new players after the start of Major 5. It's been the way it has been in the past, and I don't think any teams would do it anyway because they want to keep some consistency going forward. And now is the chance. Now, the standings are FaZe, OpTic, Thieves. Thieves, I believe, have indeed reached the World Championship. It's official. Toronto, I think, need one more win to secure that spot, but also Subliners, Surge. They've got enough points, they'll be fine. If Boston and Minnesota don't win anything from now to the rest of the season, then Vegas could overtake them, but you know, you'd think they would be okay, and Minnesota especially, given the fact that Vegas have a very hard stage. So from my perspective, right, the top 4 teams right now, Ultra, okay, they got top 6 of the major, lost to FaZe. I think they're better than they showed online. If their Search and Destroy gets back to 50-50, they will again potentially be a contender. Thieves, OpTic, FaZe, they're not making any moves. People say FaZe should make a change, and yes, they are the 3rd best team comfortably now, and we'll talk about that later today, but I don't think there's any realistic change they can make that actually upgrades their roster now. If they don't win anything though, they'll probably do something in the offseason, you would have to think. But the top 4 teams, I think they're going to stick it out. They might make a change Toronto for Hicksy if it doesn't work, but I think they'll stick it out. The bottom 4 teams, what's the point, right? I mean, Florida, Guerrillas, London, you're out of there anyway. Vegas, they could try, but they don't really have the money to do anything. They made their big change for Stand. It worked online, didn't work on LAN. Maybe they can make a run for things. But it's these teams, 5 through 8th, right? These are the teams that if they turned up to the World Championship today, they're not going to win, right? Maybe Surge and Subliners have an outside chance, like a 1% chance of making it happen, because they do have the potential to beat the top teams, but they're not quite where the top 4 teams are right now. Yes, Subliners came top 4 at the major, but they beat Vegas and Rokkr. Not particularly impressive results. So it's these teams in this group that I feel like should be considering making roster changes the most, because if they don't, are they not just settling for mediocrity, which I think a lot of organizations do. There's one organization though that doesn't. I will say, if you guys are Vegas Legion fans, that last season in Vanguard, this is so remarkable to think about, right? Going into the final stage, Subliners had 70 points last year. Like, they had a disaster class of a season. They were, I mean, even Thieves last year were 8th in standings, 120 points. Crazy, right, that they ended up going back-to-back at Major 4 and Champs. But this was going into, I guess, the Major 4 qualifiers for last season, because there was only 4 majors last year, and then the World Championship. Subliners were 50 points behind qualifying, and they made it happen. They went 4-1 online, then they went to the Grand Finals at the Major. That got them 90 points, which put them at 160. They overtook Florida Mutineers, and they made it to the World Championship. So, look, it's not going to happen for Vegas, but maybe a little bit of copium to hold on to, especially, though, because Vegas have the hardest strength of schedule by far. They play OpTic, Subliners, FaZe, Rokkr, and Surge. That's tough, right? The easiest one, I think, technically goes to FaZe here. This is in terms of average standing placing as it stands. Guerrillas, OpTic, Vegas, Ravens, and Boston for FaZe, and a lot of these teams are kind of mediocre ones. OpTic, for example, play Vegas, FaZe, Surge, Toronto, Florida. It's not easy, but not particularly challenging, especially given the fact that we know OpTic's record versus FaZe is rather good. But confirmation last night from Boston that they are going to pull the trigger. I thought that if a team was going to make a move, they might wait a little bit longer, right? But that's not the case here. They confirmed last night that Boston, with the Major 5 qualifiers coming up shortly, will be bringing Vivid back into the starting team. Nero will be moving to the substitute spot. So, I mean, look, this is a very controversial move. Again, it must be said from the Boston side. I've seen a lot of people say, wow, what are they playing at here? And I can understand that perspective as well. What I will say, though, is that I respect them for trying, right? So these are Boston's stats here during... This is since Crump joined the team for Vivid. And at the time, we thought, okay, should he have come in for Vivid or Nero was kind of unclear. Nero, I thought, was the marginally better player over the course of the season, but Vivid does have probably more intangibles in terms of some more comms, some more leadership, that type of stuff that evidently they need right now. If you guys have seen any of their games, they're 1-8 in hardpoint since Crump joined, 3-2 in control, 2-3 in search and destroy. Now, since Crump has joined the team, I think it's been very evident to see that Crump is a very valuable player potentially. His gun skill is insane. He's probably the best LSELO control player in the world right now. He has a 1.3 KD in control over the 5 matches that they've played, or the 5 maps they've played in control so far. Like, the guy's very talented. That's very clear. He can slay more than Vivid can. However, the team wasn't getting results. They were getting a lot of kills, especially in hardpoint, and not doing much with them at all. A 1-8 hardpoint record. That's far away from what they were doing before with Vivid. And in fairness, in their search and destroy, it's Nero with the highest KD and getting the #1 first blood rate by a margin on their team. So there are some questions to be raised here about this potential move, but I guess they thought, you know what, it's not working with Nero awakening Beans and Crep. Let's try it with Vivid awakening Beans and Crep, which is an understandable idea. And, you know, look, fundamentally, as I say, those teams 5 through 8, if you're a Surge, if you're, you know, even a Subliners, I'm not sure Subliners can really upgrade, maybe iLLeY for Priester, but it's kind of marginal. But certainly if you're a team like Boston or Minnesota, right, if you're not trying to upgrade your roster, I think you're kind of trolling, because you've got to try something, because this Boston team, even if they dropped Crep and brought Nero back, they're not going to win the World Championship, right? And that's going to be the goal at the end of the day. I know that Den said that he felt like their team with Crep had taken 2 steps forward but 4 steps back, and they needed to change that around, and they're trying to do so, because these guys can slay with the best of them. It's just about putting all the pieces together. Now, let's be honest here. Is Vivid coming back going to solve this team's problems? I'm not so convinced. Methods also doesn't seem so convinced that dropping Nero is a good idea, and I don't blame him. moment, right? I thought Nero for the large part of the season was probably their best player, to be honest. And then they dropped Vivid for Crimp, and now Nero's gone for Vivid instead. And look, I get it. The leadership, the comms, Vivid can probably help more with that than Nero can, but Nero was, for a large time, doing a lot of the work on this team, right? Especially when Methods is there and he even replies and says, yes, there's my frustration here, my heart hurting is indeed because Nero's getting benched. He doesn't agree with it. And now, of course, Vivid coming back. Now, what this does mean is that Vivid can't go to Seattle Surge. That was a discussion that we had that, okay, could Mack for Vivid be a thing? But no, they're not going to be selling him unless they want to get Nero now, which probably isn't going to happen either because Boston will want to keep him around. The main issue, though, I think with Boston is their AR situation. Beans, when he first came in, I thought was really impressive in his first few series. Since then, hasn't quite been as impactful as I expected him to be honest. And then I've got Awakening, who has phenomenal numbers almost always. A 1.17 for Awakening in the hardpoints for a 1 in 8 record. Like, Awakening is known by many as being, you know, let's just say playing for kills, maybe the most in the entire league. Yes, he's got some decent hill time, but the way that Awakening plays, he's a very good slayer. Let's just put it that way. Like, he's been that way for a couple of years. Does he provide much in terms of comms or leadership or other factors? Not necessarily. So I don't think the issue with this team was necessarily in the SMG category with Kremp and Nero. I think it's more like you've got to make a call on the AR side, and ideally you want an IGL AR type figure because these guys are great at getting kills. As I say, they can slay with the best teams in the CDL, I think, and they've done that against OpTic and other teams over the last few weeks. I mean, they played OpTic twice here, they played Toronto, they played New York in the last 4 series, but they lost all 4 of those. But it was just actually converting that into results that just straight up was not happening. Now, this is the thing about Doug Martin, because I know that like FaZe have joked about it, but I don't even think he was really joking, right? And you can kind of understand why that Doug is now an AR for the Boston Breach Academy. Yes, he drops a 0.8 KD, but nonetheless, he does have leadership, he does have comms, he does know how to play the game at a decent level, and there's just that all those pieces are missing from the Boston Academy. It's just a pure slaying team that isn't going to operate at a high level against the best of the best. Is Vivid coming back in and not changing anything on the AR side actually going to fix that? They might be a little bit better, they might be able to unlock something more, but I don't think this is going to be a world-changing situation. I think that in the long term, next season, let's say, they're going to have to make a call. Do they keep Wake? Do they keep Beans? And what other kind of leadership AR do they try and bring into their system? Because I feel like they need it with all the talent they have elsewhere. Maybe in the short term, Doug Martin is actually one of the best solutions. Because if this doesn't work out and it's clear that they need some leadership from the AR duo, then maybe Doug is actually an option there. But very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. I will just mention quickly this from Sam Phoenix from the Seattle Surge. Got to give my guy Lamar his flowers. So many of you slam him over and over again, but he's been frying and leading this team so well. A lot of you should actually learn what good COD is, etc., and what makes Lamar so valuable and so great. So, you know, pretty cool stuff. And obviously, Seattle Surge won an event last season. This statement is very nice had they actually had the success to back it up. But the fact of the matter is, Surge have been poor. They came top 8 this last event. Tragic stuff. The choke against the Minnesota Rokkr should never have happened. So you can totally understand why conversations are being raised. Now, I think accuracy was pretty damn good this stage, all things considered. It was the questions around Mack that were really being raised at the end of the stage. And Surge are in another position like Boston are, to me, that if they're not considering making a move now, like, okay, they still have the potential to beat teams, but I just don't know if they can do it consistently enough to actually challenge the top guys come the World Championship. They might be able to get top 4 at champs this team, but I don't think they're going to go too much further than that as it currently stands with the evidence we have seen so far this season. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Name a player that you can take in hand-to-hand combat.
Pred.
Pred easy?
Yeah, Pred easy. In 45 seconds, I got him.
Well, I can take anyone, but I can for sure take accuracy from R.
Awesome. Easy. The guy that's always coming in my chat, spitting some BS, that guy is Scrappy.
I could take most of them, but Scrappy, bro. Give me Scrappy. Guy's got a big mouth, so I would love to shut it up for him. You know what I'm saying? Give me Scrap.
We're gonna go Eli Standy, the absolute stick insect. Hobby the bald man over there. I want to take one more. TJ Haley, bro. Easy. Bowling ball.